Mary Meet Annie here. This video is in response to questions I have received here and also a question I am answering on behalf of a newsletter that I am part of, and I'll update you about that in a bit. The question is about fatigue after doing ritual. I want to start by saying that's a common thing to happen for those who are learning to work with magic and new at working with energy. However, don't feel so bad if it's happening to you, because even experienced practitioners will find themselves in a situation after ritual that they either have an exhaustion of energy or too much energy, just too jazzed up. It sneaks up on all of us at some time or another, no matter the fact that we think we've got this mastered. So don't think there's anything not normal about it happening to you. The thing about it is that every one of us works energy differently. We each have different personal energy. We have different energies we work with, and even our personalities, which are involved in this whole process, very different from which to which. So there isn't one answer. So I thought I would just highlight some of the things that it could be if you're experiencing, and I'm going to make it be about both, not just fatigue, but being overstimulated also. And those of you who are watching, there will be lots of other suggestions. I probably could have made probably at least twice the ones I'm going to make, but didn't want this video to get that long. So by all means, those of you who have tried things that have worked for you, share them below, if you will, as a way of being involved in the video, but also because your expertise then is available to those who are looking at the video, if they look below, to see what some others have suggested. So let me begin at the beginning. When you went in to your ritual or sat down to do the working that you were going to do that required the use of energy, what were your forethoughts? What did you plan? What did you have in mind as a goal? Going in without a pure focus, without knowing what you want to come out of changed or what you want to manifest, how you want to leave differently than you came in, if you don't have a vision of what you want that to be, the energy that you create in the process of your ritual, while you may attempt to focus it, may bounce around a little bit for you and not settle down enough. So the first thing is at the beginning. What did you plan ahead of time? What did you go in knowing you were going to do? It's all about focus and intent when it comes to that. When you entered your sacred space, what did you call to your side? Sometimes, if we find ourselves depleted or overstimulated by energy work, it's because we made it all about us. Most practitioners work with something other than themselves. If they're not with a group that they're working with group energy, they are working with their guides, their elemental guardians, or their gods, the matrons or patrons, the gods that stand by them in addition to whoever their major deities are. Did you make it all about you? And therefore, there's no assistance, nothing that will help guide you, judge you, feed your intuition on whether you're properly manifesting energy. Think about what you take with you in circle, what you invite when you're there. Going into circle, did you enter circle making a clear distinction between the world you're leaving, the physical world, and the place you are entering, that place outside of time and space? At either end of the ritual, it is critical that you realize you're leaving one experience and moving into another. And a great part of why that's critical has to do with the use of energy. You're going to be working with the non-physical, but you're leaving a physical world. Leave it behind you when you step in. Be aware of the fact you are in a very different environment. How have you chosen to raise energy? And are you open to changing that if it feels wrong for you? By that I mean, if you're doing a working that you want to drum, or you want to chant, or you want to dance, or you want to hum, or you want to meditate deeply, do you know why you're reaching out for that particular energy? And when you are in circle, was it right? If you enter circle, and say you're not physically feeling your best, I'm all for still entering circle. I'm not one who says, oh, I don't feel perfect, therefore I won't do it. I go into circle anyway, but I modify what I'm doing. If I don't feel up to a form of ecstatic energy, I'm not going to drum myself silly or dance around my circle. I'm going to exhaust myself. You have to be in tune with the energy of your body at any given time. It is not the same from experience to experience. If you need to jazz it up to create more energy in your working, shift what you're doing to something that is more energetic. If you feel like it's leaving you feeling tired or the feeling that you're giving too much, take it back. Come down to some quieter form of manifesting energy. Be aware of the fact there are many ways to do it, and even one practitioner will not do it the same each time, because there is an instinctual knowledge which you have to give at any given time. It is not the same from time to time. In addition, another way of looking at the kinds of energy we work with, intensity is one thing, but another thing is, are you working with the core energy of yourself, what comes from here, or are you working with cosmic or universal energy? When you are in circle, you reach into the center of yourself to pull something that you've created. You've probably done something to raise that energy. Bring it into yourself or solidify what's already there, and then you make a point of focusing it on a purpose or an object, whatever you're working for the experience is. You also can be working with cosmic energy. One form of energy, the personal, comes from within you. You have to have it within you that particular night for it to work. You may get into ritual and find out you don't have it or you don't have enough of it. Don't forget, we work with not only that intimate of an energy, personally created, but we work with the energy of the universe, the etheric energy. We can at any time reach into the etheric level, take energy that we need, perhaps to assist us because we're not generating enough on our own, therefore exhausting ourselves in the process. We bring that into us, we solidify it, and then we focus it outward. It's not all about you and your personal energy at any given time. Remember the pillar meditation from my Flow of the Right series? Things move through you. There is a core of you, and there will be times when that is all you need. You will have done whatever you do to raise energy, and within the vessel of your body, you will have created what you need, enough to focus on what you want to manifest. If not, whether you expected it to be that way or not, don't be disappointed, but know there is a vast, unlimited source of energy for you to be tapping into. Sometimes fatigue after a ritual is because, again, you made it all about you and you're forgetting that you are expansive, you're huge. Your ability to reach out to all of the energy that exists, including energy you yourself have put out there previous times you've worked magic. It's always there. The practitioner learns to judge their own energetic level at any given time. You should feel when you're working magic, when you're raising energy, that you are vibrating at a higher level. If you came into the circle, you should have felt like a creature of the earth. Your vibration level would be basically a When you're working your magic, when you become one with your circle and the energies you're working it with, you are doing a It's a different level of energy. Stop and think about the fact that when you're trying to focus energy, if it's available in your core, it's going to feel something like as you offer it. If that's not happening, and you should know yourself well enough if you're working magic to know if it's in you at any given time. Don't be guilty if you surprise yourself thinking you're going to drum yourself into some ecstatic energy-raising form and it doesn't happen. It happens. The witch knows their body and their energy, and they can go, I need to call out. In that case, you're calling out the energy that is available to you, working with the elements, working with the elementals in your circle, working with your gods to come to a place of finding a greater source, or working at the etheric level when you are aware that your circle is outside of time and space, and everything that has ever been put out there is available for you. So you reach out to energy sometimes. That feels like, and it just vibrates within you. Be aware any given moment if you have to shift where your energy is coming from. You never need to deplete yourself. Other energies available there for you. As part of the process, have you, after you've gone to all the focus, whatever you took to raise energy, when you've reached that point of burst, that absolute point of burst, did you have something to do with it? What did you do with it? How did you direct it? Where did you put it? You could have put it into an object, into a vessel. You could have put it into a visualization. You could have offered it up to the ether. That same conduit that brings you energy when you need it is also something you feed whenever you need to offer beyond something in the nearby as intent. What did you do with that energy? Where did you send it? You don't raise it just to raise it. You release it. And speaking of releasing, did you release it when you declared a release in whatever way you choose to do it in your working? Were you done with it? Or did you stay connected to it? The old witch's adage is when we do spell work, as soon as we do the work, we step away from it. We do not think about it again. We disconnect ourselves from it. That can be very frustrating when we're learning because we put a lot of effort into planning something and emotionally we are connected to it. But the truth of it is the old ones knew. Those who taught us knew. We've created the energy and we've released it, which is what the witch does. And then it becomes whatever we set it out to become. We're no longer connected with it once it leaves us. If we have not disconnected ourselves from it and stay connected to it, it's a continual source of drain. A low energy source of drain we may not be aware of, but it's constantly draining at us. Kiss it goodbye, my friends. You really need to do your energy raising and release it. Did you give yourself a chance when you finished your working, when you released your energy in whatever form you were doing for that particular working? Did you give yourself a chance after disconnecting from it to sit in silence? So often, it's so anticlimactic when the energy is raised and gone that we become for a moment focused on what comes next in our right. You should sit with the feeling of your circle when you have discharged or focused your energy in your chosen form. You need to develop the ears and the feelings to know, what does it feel like? Is it gone? Are you disconnected with it? Is it still around? You can only do that in a place of silence, not in a place where you're suddenly thinking about, okay, and now I'm going to do the next thing. Let's talk then about the ways, because there will be residual energy, the ways that we take care of that business in circle, which is where this energy work needs to be begun and completed. I've hinted at one of the ways to release residual energy, which is when you sit in that silence at the end of your work and you feel how it feels. If you have an excess of energy, in other words, you gave it up or you put it into something and it still feels like it's lingering, make an offering of it. Your offering of that energy to the ether then is there for others who need to reach and pull down when they need to reach out. It's also there for you when you need to do that. Your own energy comes back to you. You won't recognize it, but it's part of what collects at the etheric level. So in that quiet place that you're listening, you can make an offering of excess energy you feel within you. You can also then take one last time, of course, to realize, whew, I'm just depleted, and realize the universe will give back to you. Welcome refreshment. Welcome that energy to come into you, get you back to a place of balance. Making an offering of your excess energy is one way to take care of it. And the other part of offering is to realize there's an offering available to you from the work you've done previously and from all those who have worked with the same intent you have. The offering comes from the etheric to you. Here, take this back. Fill yourself. Offering works two ways. According to the working you were doing, you could also make a vessel to hold excess energy. For spell work that's going to be over a period of time, that you've declared, I will do this, this, and this in this order, you may want a stone that you've put the excess energy into. Any kind of a vessel, anything that you can imagine, you can put your excess energy into if there is a plan for its release. Because if the work is not done that night, if it's more than a one-part work, you still have the magical responsibility to release your connection to the work. Think of putting excess energy, if you're doing a continuated spell, into some kind of a vessel. Cakes and wine. Now there's a great place to put extra energy. According to the work you were doing that night, obviously there are some kinds of works that you wouldn't want to use as a blessing on the cakes and wine, but the majority of the work that we do, the energy that is left in our body is very powerful. It's our personal fire energy, where our passion, our divine purpose, our will comes from. And that can be made as an offering to our cakes and wine. Cakes and wine are very important. Solitary practitioners often don't do cakes and wine because they figure that's a group thing, or they think they have to be very sophisticated about cakes and wine. Not so. I do cakes and wine at all of my workings where I do magic. Number one, to make an offering of them to my gods, which I do by the energy that still resides in me after I've done my magical workings, offering that as a blessing on the cakes and on the wine. And speaking of cakes and wine, I've never used a cake in ritual personally. I don't even like really sweet things in ritual, except for some certain rituals it just seems to fit. The other part of the offering of the blessing of the cakes and the wine is the blessing unto your body. It can be a first step into reassuming your physical mantle. This is why cakes and wine, to this practitioner's viewpoint, needs to be at the end of your ritual. I've been at rituals where they did cakes and wine and then later on raised energy, and I was totally confounded by that experience. I didn't get the logic. To me, cakes and wine comes at the end of your ritual. A place to give thanks, a place to make an offering in thanks to your gods, blessing whatever food and drink you're using as your cakes and wine. I prefer to use something like a very hard roll, something that you can literally have to tear apart, use your hands, your senses. Remember, you're coming back into the physical world, you're about to re-enter it. You get your body thinking again about it being a body, no longer an energetic being, which is what it has been, however long you've been working your magic and releasing the energy. Something you can tear apart and something that takes a little bit to chew. That whole act is very physical. You start to become more aware of yourself as that physical being that you were when you first entered your circle. Same thing with whatever you choose to drink. It can be anything from wine to milk to juice. I like very, very cold water. Again, because if I take that water in and I can feel that cold water literally going down through my body, I'm becoming ever more aware of my body as physical. Getting back in tune with your physical body is a way to disconnect from the energy work you have been doing. When I was being taught about the importance of cakes and wine as offerings in gratitude and as a way to take that first step into feeling ourselves become heavier, more physical, more coming down from the height of the ritual, I was told it was called the bone work of communion. And that's a phrase I really like in thinking of First Communion, taking part in something that we know came from the gods, which we are grateful for, we bless with our energy, we offer thanks, and then the feeling of taking that into our physical bodies, distancing ourselves from the energy work we have been doing. Keep in mind when you have been working at any point in your ritual to make adjustments on that power that you're working with, whether you need more, whether you need to ground because you have an abundance of it, something that will make you be at the right place you need to be for the working you are doing. And also remember, you are working with elemental energy at all times. Now, I almost always in my energy work with either a specific element or a combination of them according to the work I'm doing. That element can always balance itself. For every fire that is just going too strong and not what you needed, you can envision it banking back even to the point of becoming an ember if you need to. For every assertive image of water you may be using in the sense of storm, something that is moving and changing at that rate, you can imagine it calmed by seeing in your witch's eye a dark, calm, peaceful pool of water. Use elemental energy, both balanced within itself, or the concept of using one element to balance out another element. During a particularly erratic energy raising for me, when I just get too gung-ho, I will use all of the elements to bring elemental balancing to myself and settle myself and therefore my energies down. Don't forget you're working with a lot of different energies in your circle, and make use of all of them. Another thing to consider when all is done and you are feeling either fatigued or still oversensitized to energy, did you attract anything in the process of doing your working? We're so focused on what we are about to do, what we have decided we're going to do, what we accomplish, that sometimes we aren't aware of the fact that we may have stirred up a bit. And by that, don't get me wrong, I don't mean that something came in and visited your circle. I don't believe in that. To me, I'm sorry, it's against what a lot of you will have read, but it's hogwash to me. You own your circle. You created it. What happens in it is totally under your control. If things happen in it which upset you, you need to stop and think about whether you were really ready to do that kind of working. We're all ready to do any kind of working when we realize we are the absolute ruler of what happens in our circle, because we have aligned ourselves with our gods and with our guardians and with the elemental forces. Nothing happens that didn't come from us. If you're getting ready to leave your circle and you feel that something's just niggling at you, you feel still after all your good efforts you're tired or you're too zapped, too charged up, you probably have a residual energy that in the process of everything you were doing and focusing on this one thing, something else was spinning around you and it just needs to be brought down. You own it. You use your witch's instinct to decide how to take care of it. But you own it. But sometimes you create energies in circles that are in addition to the ones that really were the focus of your working. Almost to the end of my suggestions. Oh, I could offer so many more, but I'm just trying to limit myself. The dreaded journaling. I don't mean at the end of your ritual, before you take back your circle, that you write a novel, that you journal even the experience. I don't believe in that. I believe that kind of journaling should be happening in reflective mode outside the circle. Because I believe that what you remember when you're outside circle is what you're supposed to remember in the other world of what happened in your circle. I don't believe capturing every intimate detail of the experience while you're in circle serves a purpose. It's what lives on in you, which I do believe needs to be captured. However, at the end of all rites, I do 10 or 12, maybe a half a dozen words, and I mean words, not sentences. They will be something that will give me a sense of, do I feel I did the work? Do I feel the work is done? Meaning, did I release it? How do I feel? How did it feel when I do it? These are sound bites. These are words. If a word like tired, or something like the acknowledgement physically, head hurts, those one-word descriptions of how it felt when you were doing it and how you feel now can be a way for your mind's eye to focus in on something left to be done. If you're tired, it's not too late. You're still in circle. Deal with it, witch. Get yourself some energy before you leave. If you have a headache, investigate, is it because I still have too much energy bouncing around in my head, or is it another sign of fatigue? And again, I say deal with it, witch. You're responsible to end your work, including self-care, before you leave your circle. Let's talk about leaving circle. You intentionally take back and leave your circle. Just like when you came in, you left the physical world into that world out of place and time. You need to be very aware at the end of your circle, you are leaving out of space and time and returning to what I call the place and time we call home. You just don't get to a place where you think that your ritual ends and quickly wrap up, clean up, and you're done. It's a process of bringing your body back to firm feet planted on the ground. Notice when you leave ritual, an emotional thing which often happens. It's what happens when we leave what's called the ritual high. that feeling of ecstasy that is part of being in our rights, which are, by nature, when we generate energy and work magic, ecstatic. Remember that it ends. It can feel a little bit anticlimactic when we leave that charged environment and come back into something which feels heavier. My counsel is to remember a couple of lines in the charge where the goddess tells us, "Mine is the ecstasy of the spirit, and mine also is joy upon the earth." In a way, there's two worlds. They overlap, absolutely, but as witches, we intentionally move from one to the other, according to our need, according to the business we are about. Be aware of the fact that you are re-arriving at the place of joy upon the earth. Literally feel your feet firmly planted on the ground when your ritual is over. If you can get outside, that's wonderful. Feet planted firmly on the ground. Physical being to physical being. Let yourself feel the natural energies of the ground around you. Raise your arms and feel the natural energy of everything that surrounds you on this side, in this place, and in this time. Occasionally in the process of doing that, you'll feel a little bit of energy drain from you, or you'll feel when you raise your arms that more energy is coming to you. I think of that as the natural balancing of being back on this side, where you offer yourself to Gaia, and she says, I think I could give you a little something right now, or to make you more comfortable, I'll take a little bit. I could use a little bit of what you have. It doesn't mean you have to get outside and onto the ground. You could live in a city and you can't get to the ground by where you live if you're high up, or it's all concrete. Metaphorically, again, in your witch's mind, use the image of whatever it takes to imagine energy coming through you that goes down into the earth beneath you. You're always on the earth, maybe with a little bit of divisions between you and it sometimes, but you're always a creature of the earth and on the earth. Make use of that kind of grounding and centering outside of ritual to help you come back. Do whatever it takes to embrace the mundane again. Listen, hear the sounds of your neighborhood. I almost always, when I come out of a ritual trance, have to listen to the TV that my husband's had on the whole time, and I've never heard it. But as soon as I'm back in this world, very present again. I hear the dogs walking around. I hear the dogs outside, the animals outside, the birds and insects in the trees, the wind in the trees, the creaks of the house. Celebrate everything that is about this place. Use your senses. You're now a creature of your five senses again. Disconnecting from that energetic self, refocusing on your physical self. One last thing I would offer to you is, when you take stock at that point, you need to think about what you did wrong, because you did do something wrong. It may not, probably was not, intentional. And it happens to all of us sometimes. Happens to the new practitioner kind of constantly. How else are you going to learn when you need to call out for energy, or when you have an excess of energy to offer? You only learn by doing. One last thing I do, I find that centering, going outside, spending time outside after ritual, I do every time I do ritual, a way that brings me a calming and a quieting down. Literally, it brings me back to earth. I have occasionally done everything in my best intentions to get to the proper place after a ritual and still feel a little bit, So what do? My circle's done and over with, but I return to my altar, to the place that I did the working. I light a candle, and I sit quietly, and I use meditation to either make an offering of this excess energy that I have. I can envision the candle burning it, or taking the energy in literally from the warmth of a candle if I'm still feeling depleted. And I sometimes then, as a last effort, and it seems to work at that point because I'm tired at that point, if things were a little bit imbalanced, I actually take a little bit of the salt that I used to represent earth on my altar, just lay a little bit of the salt on my tongue. Let it dissolve. It is a sinking in that helps the body sink back into the physical. Take stock when it's all over and done. There'll be times when you're feeling a little lopsided. There are things you can do. Go outside, seek for energy, meditate. Importantly, learn from that experience so that you don't repeat it, at least not by intent. Again, it'll sneak up and happen to you accidentally every now and then, and don't feel guilt over that. I'd be one guilty witch to this very day if I was upset at the times at which a little bit of that world followed me back into this world, or when I failed to do the work properly and completing it properly before I left my circle. I may have thought I did, found out later I didn't, but I can almost pinpoint and learn from why I was unbalanced when I left. Whether I'm fatigued or whether I am just all, ooh, I can't calm down. Both things happen. I hope that's helpful. I know that you will all have some suggestions to make from your own experiences, and I invite you to do a video response or to put something in the comments so that others can learn from your experience. I can only share mine, and yours will be different. I will learn from you if you share some of your experiences when it comes to this. I know this is an important topic to those who are new to practicing. I also know we all have to be reminded of how to work energy, how to deal with it properly, the responsibility towards energetic workings every now and then. I wish you mirth and reverence. Merry part.